Welcome to Rainy Day Rabbit Holes,
a uniquely Pacific Northwest podcast.
I'm Shay.
And I'm Jody.
Each week, we will take you on a journey through the quirky, mysterious, and fascinating stories of Pacific Northwest history.
So grab your North Face jacket, strap on your Tevas, pour yourself a cup of Northwest roasted coffee, and let's fall down the rabbit hole. All right, today we hit on a state we haven't visited yet in our podcast.
Nope. Montana?
No.
Utah?
I'm going to let you guess.
Arizona.
I'm going to give you hints. Is Arizona Northwest?
No, I'm just naming states now.
Yeah, nope. So this state, their former slogan used to be great potatoes, tasty destinations, but now they simply go by famous potatoes. Can you guess that state?
New Jersey.
Yeah. No. Idaho. Idaho. We used to say that all the time when we'd go to Montana. We'd drive through and we'd scream, Idaho, Idaho. Every time we crossed the state line. Yes, with my little kids. That's what we did.
I'm sure the people who live there really appreciate that joke.
Always. But yes, Idaho is famous for their potatoes, but it's also known for its beautiful landscapes from mountains, lakes, and rivers to agricultural and farmlands. Idaho is exceptionally beautiful. Visit Idaho.com. Idaho's tourism site boasts 30 state parks and recreational trails, 25,000 hiking trails and backpacking trails, 3,100 miles of navigable whitewater. That's not even like something we'd put our paddle boards on. That's like whitewater.
Whitewater, yeah.
3,100 miles. But this is where I think you'll like it and want to go on a road trip with me. 130 plus soakable hot springs. 65 plus wineries. 100 plus breweries. Idaho sounds nice, doesn't it?
It does. Why don't we live in Idaho?
Well, today we're going to discuss a darker side.
Oh, okay. So there's a reason why we don't live in Idaho. Okay.
Today we are diving down a rabbit hole on the darker side of Idaho and its peculiar ability to attract militia groups.
Oh, that sounds like fun. Militias and hot springs.
Militias and hot springs. Do you think that's why militias like to go there?
Because after a long day of doing survivalist training, they like to go soak in the hot spring?
Yes, exactly. Got to soothe those muscles. No. In fact, let's start with clarifying what a militia is or what we're going to be talking about today, because there's actually multiple definitions for militia. According to Merriam-Webster, there are three parts. Number one, a part of organized armed forces of a country and is liable to be called in an emergency only. So our National Guard is actually considered a militia.
Okay, so there's an actual government-funded militia, but it's the National Guard. Okay.
Yeah, National Guard, yeah. And then number two, the whole body of able-bodied male citizens declared by law as being subject to call to military service. So basically, everyone registered for the draft, also a militia.
Oh, interesting. So basically, it's the government can call upon them to form a militia. It's just a draft.
Yep.
But instead of going into like a full armed services like the Army or the Marines,
you're the militia.
Okay, interesting.
And then there's number three. A private group of armed individuals that operates as a paramilitary force and typically motivated by a political or religious ideology. And that's definitely the definition we're talking about today.
And I would think that that's what most people probably think of when they think of militia, too.
That's what I thought of, too. I was quite surprised to see that our National Guard is a militia.
Interesting. And it's probably guys that really, really like to shop at U.S. Army surplus stores.
Yes. In fact, we'll get to at the end, because this is part of my rabbit hole, is why they feel so comfortable there. And you're going to find out just how comfortable they are.
There's a whole playing Army man thing. Okay, yes, I'm excited.
All right. So we're going to start right at the meat of this rabbit hole, and we're going to go to Ruby Ridge.
Oof.
The Ruby Ridge standoff of 1992 is an event etched into the national consciousness as a stark reminder of the consequences when government overreach and dangerous extremism go head to head.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. It's bad mix. Located in the remote mountains of northern Idaho, Ruby Ridge was the site of a deadly confrontation between federal agents and a family living off the grid. At its heart were Randy Weaver and his family and their radical beliefs. Weaver, a former Green Beret, moved to Ruby Ridge, Idaho with his wife Vicki and two of their children. They eventually have 4, but when they move there, there's 2. And they were seeking a life of self-sufficiency and isolation from what they perceived as a corrupt, tyrannical government. At the time, Randy was a factory worker at a John Deere factory in Iowa. This was the late 70s and to early 80s that he worked there.
So they moved from Iowa to Idaho?
Yes, after some research.
Well, that's pretty easy, too, when you're changing your address, because Iowa and Idaho, very similar.
It's very similar.
Yeah.
Wonder if they mixed up the IA and the ID on their address. Anyway, the economy was in a downturn at the time, and taxes were high. Interest rates were in the high teens, 17, 18% to buy a home or a farm. Farmers were losing their farms, and Randy could see his job was at risk. Since he was, a factory worker on John Deere tractors, he could see that revenue stream would be at risk.
Yeah. I'm sorry, this was the late 70s?
Late 70s.
Okay.
They move in 1983. So
Okay.
That's when they finally make that move. But so during this time where the economy's down and he's seeing his livelihood at risk, Vicky, Randy's wife, has turned to religion as a source for answers and guidance. Unfortunately, her search leads her to the extreme side of Christianity. And she is now connected with apocalyptic Christianity. So she's looking at the end of times, the rapture. She can see it coming. All of these signs in her community, out in the government, and the way our economy is going, she sees this as the signs of end of time.
It's the fun sect of Christianity.
Yes.
The doomsday
The
sects,
doomsday,
yeah.
for sure. So she's devouring the Bible for passages and making connections about where they are in life, and sees that definitely we are at the end of times. So in 1983, with Randy blaming the government for his dire financial outlook and Vicky seeing the need to prepare for end of times, they both decide that it's time to learn a new way to live, a new way to survive. And Randy starts to learn off-grid survival, and Vicky dives into her Bible to figure out what to eat and how to prepare for the end of times. They decide that they need to move to a mountaintop somewhere, and this is confirmed for Vicky in the Bible, Matthew 24. Then let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains. And so they choose Ruby Ridge, northern Idaho, 50 miles south of the Canadian border. They pack up their 2 kids and they head out there.
Oh, boy.
Yes. And according to the University of Missouri, Kansas City School of Law famous trials webpage, this is actually a fascinating webpage if you like true crime. There's hundreds of trials on there that they delve into and do deep dives into.
Ooh,
so if you're a true crime lover, then that's a great site. And we'll include that on our website with our citations, references. So you can go there. But anyway, so they refer to this area, and they say that it became a magnet for like-minded people. Quote, government haters, minority haters, immigrant haters, modern culture haters, identity Christians, neo-Nazis, and tax protesters.
This sounds real familiar to some very recent times, too.
There's nothing. We're going back into the 80s, and we still have some of these same conspiracies, philosophies, and extremists.
There's nothing new under the sun.
No.
You just recycle ideas.
Right, exactly. And in fact, this situation is recycling at the moment. So we'll see. Hopefully there's a different outcome. But
oh, boy.
Yes. By the way, identity Christians, this is a theology that teaches that white Anglo-Saxon Christians are the true descendants of the lost tribes of Israel. So anyone else calling themselves Jews are not just frauds, but they're the children of the devil, according to identity
Jews
Christians. Yes.
It's very interesting. We've been talking about an upcoming episode we're doing with effed up history and the through line of anti-Semitism through the satanic panic and QAnon and all of that. And then I keep finding all of these other through lines or things that have anti-Semitic rhetoric behind it. I mean, even the anti-sunscreen movement and anti-cancer treatment movement have anti-Semitic through lines. And here we are right back there. It's really, really fascinating how the Jews have been the villain of history from Christians.
And others, pretty much anyone not Jewish. I
Or
mean,
Buddhists,
look what's
probably.
happening. Right. Yeah. Okay, we will leave them out.
No one ever accuses the Buddhists.
Yeah, I don't. Is there any religious wars based on Buddhism? I think not. Huh?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there could probably be people that have twisted it, but that interesting. Okay, so go on. So
Yes.
we were talking about identity Christians, which I have never heard that term before, but thank you for clearing that up. Yeah.
So if you're, I love that it's the Anglo-Saxon Christians that, I mean, this is, so the neo-Nazis, this is what they relate to for their religion. This is how they get to the idea that, you're blonde, blue-eyed, pure.
Which is interesting because all of the roots of Christianity take place in the Middle East.
Right.
Where all the white people are, apparently.
Right. I feel like you had to do some mental gymnastics to get there. Actually, in my research, and you can look these things up on YouTube and stuff, I mean, they did a great job explaining it. But definitely they had to really go about drawing some lines back to white people being the superior in order to make that happen. And they do a good job. So back to the story. Yes. So this area is now a collection of like-minded people who are anti pretty much anything that the rest of the country is or is about. And so they have to go find a remote area where they can avoid all the other humans who aren't like them. And for the most part, the authorities / the government pretty much leave them alone and let them live as they wish. But they drew a little too much attention. Just a few miles south of the Weavers' Ruby Ridge cabin was Hayden Lake, Idaho, where the Aryan Nation had a compound, a pretty large compound. The Weavers were not true believers in the Aryan Nation, but this was their community. These were the people that were around, so they would go to the picnics and the birthday parties and eventually became good friends with the
Klan rallies.
The Klan rallies, yes. And eventually, Randy Weaver becomes a member, at least attends the meetings. The Aryan Nation makes themselves an investigatory target when they kill a radio show host, and over several public comments make it known that they'd like to declare war on the federal government.
Jeez.
So this draws the attention of the federal government, who was once leaving them alone and letting them be up in the mountains where they weren't really bothering anybody. You can go,
be racist and
right. You can go be extremism up there, and as long as you're not bothering anybody, we don't care.
Right.
But they were getting a little froggy and decided they were going to start bringing themselves down from the mountain. And so the ATF becomes involved. And this is where Randy Weaver meets Kenneth Fadley. He's a ATF undercover agent, and he's infiltrated the Aryan Nation.
Oh, that's got to be terrifying.
For
the agent.
ATF?
Yeah,
yes,
for
right.
the agent, because I mean, I would imagine any undercover agent, it's terrifying. The fear of being found out always.
Right.
And you have to pretend to be somebody you're not, which
is hideous too. I'm assuming, like, if you're not a white supremacist, this is to be infiltrating that and pretending you are one has to be like, I don't know. I don't know if I could not do
turning,
it. Yes,
right?
yes.
And then you must have a lot of ethical and conflicts because you're like, God, I'm saying these terrible things and I know it's not true, but it's propagating it within
right,
this
exactly. You're
perpetuating
this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
You're emboldening and empowering these people.
Even though you're doing it to hopefully take them down. But yeah. Okay. So
in the meantime, they are hurting people. Maybe not legally, but when they're making statements or excluding or
and there's that, but the real harm comes in they are raising their children to have the same ideals 100%. And it just perpetuates this ideology that just goes on and on and on because they'll grow up to be neo-Nazis and have little baby neo-Nazis.
Yes, absolutely. This is part of, we'll get to the trial later, but they could not have the Weaver children testify in the defense because they would have to testify that these children use the N-word regularly. They wore swastikas on their shirts or on their sleeves and those things. So yes, they definitely were indoctrinating. But this is indoctrination, people. Yes. This is indoctrination.
But Randy Weaver says he was not a neo-Nazi. He just had lots of friends that were neo-Nazis.
He considered him a white separatist, not a white supremacist.
There is a hard line, and I get really offended when you call me a...
I don't want to be near you, but I don't think I'm better than you. I don't know. All right, so back to the story. Again, we digress all the time. It's the best part of the story, or best part of the podcast. All right. So all these folks in northern Idaho mountains are heavily armed, and because they contend with wildlife and hunt for survival, but they're also preparing for a war against the federal government. So it's not just heavily armed. We have an arsenal now. And the ATF is becoming concerned based on their recent activity. So Kenneth Fadley has infiltrated the group and convinces Randy Weaver to sell him a sawed-off shotgun. Until this point, they had not found anything illegal. While it was extreme and dangerous, it wasn't illegal. But a sawed-off shotgun is a federal offense. And so the agent purposefully convinces Randy Weaver to saw off a shotgun and sell him a couple. And this way, now Randy Weaver has committed a crime. And the whole point was to see if they could get him to become an informant, basically trap him in a spot where he's between a rock and a hard place. And the best answer would be becoming an informant to keep himself safe. So Weaver, though, he's spent years with the belief that the government was his enemy and built an entire existence on hiding and preparing to fight them. So he declines to become an informant. They arrest him. He's out on bond, and a court date is set. However, Randy Weaver says, no, I'm not coming off my mountain. I'm not appearing in court, and I am not participating in this.
So, Will, quick question.
Okay.
So did the undercover agent, did this blow his cover?
I'm not sure. Things seem to go into motion in a different way, and they don't talk about him again in this story.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if he got found out or how they figured out. Yeah, they don't go into that part.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. Going on. Okay, so he gets arrested.
He refuses to come down the mountain. He refuses to participate in this process, and this sets in motion the Ruby Ridge incident.
Okay.
This is what they call it, and I kind of think that incident is a little underwhelming for what happens.
It's like we had an incident on aisle 4.
Yes.
Clean up, please.
Yes, that's what it sounds like to me. For what happens, it seems like a really mild word. So the U.S. Marshal Service becomes involved as they need to apprehend Weaver. The ATF isn't going to do it. It's the U.S. Marshal Service, and they need to bring him to federal court. They did a threat assessment and didn't feel like Weaver would be a flight risk, but they did note his commitment level to his beliefs and his preparation that he had done, and they've considered him a serious threat. Having been a Green Beret trained in the U.S. Army, this bolstered their view of him as a very serious threat.
Sure.
So the marshals took their time to plan, and the Weavers hunkered down in their property for over a year. They barely leave their cabin. They do tend to their animals in their gardens so that they can eat, but they do not come down from that mountain at all. They do not leave their property at all. Their friends will bring them food and supplies every once in a while.
But they've been prepping for a while, right?
Yep. They are set up.
Do you know, and this might be a silly question, were they off grid at this point?
Absolutely off grid the whole time.
Okay.
Once they moved to Idaho, there's no grid.
Okay.
So they had been prepared for that, and that's the way they'd been living. So they were prepared to do, a year and a half.
Yeah, so they're like, we're fine. We'll survive, guys.
Yep. Vicky actually gives birth to her 4th child during this time.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. But the press gets wind of this. They run stories highlighting how the government is knowingly allowing this fugitive to live under their nose while doing absolutely nothing. So the government now is embarrassed, but they tell the press they have no interest in getting into a gun battle with children there.
Was this before or after the Waco catastrophe? Do you know?
Let me think
what
about
year
that.
was this?
This is 90. This by the time is the 90s. This starts in like 89, 90. The event happens in 92, but leading up to it. Not sure. Waco feels later.
93.
Oh, wow. So right after.
Okay.
So a lot of the same similar, although I feel like they were more religious in Waco than anything. But
well, yeah. I mean, that was a extremist religious group that was basically a cult under one leader. And
right.
Okay, so
yeah, this is simply a family, not a whole group of people. So this is when we get to the event, the incident, I should say. It's literally this family and one family friend. So it's not a whole group.
So it's seriously just them and like one other person, not a whole group of like-minded people
right?
up there? Okay.
In this event, I mean, the whole area is littered with the like-minded people. But when this happens and Randy Weaver's on his own, him and his family are on his own, the U.S. Marshals hunting them down, and then when the incident goes down,
Okay.
they are on their own. So they state that they're not really interested in a gun battle when there's children involved.
Sure.
But then Mr. Randy Weaver does his own press interview with a news agency and makes it very clear that he's not coming off the mountain. He will not surrender under any circumstances, and he's armed and ready for battle. So now he's really just taunting the government in the press, so leaving them kind of with no choice. So now looking stupid, the U.S. Marshals set up motion-activated cameras and intensify their surveillance. They're scoping out the area of the property, making trails, trying to find the best way to safely apprehend Weaver without an incident. But on August 21st, 1992, the U.S. Marshals were getting updated surveillance. They were checking their cameras to see who was on the property still. They were checking their trails to make sure they were still accessible when the family dog alerts a group to the marshals' existence in the area. They hide behind some trees, but there's quickly gunfire and shots are fired, and there is a U.S. Marshal, William Billy Deegan. He's hit in the chest and killed.
Oh, no.
And Randy Weaver's 14-year-old son, Samuel, is also shot and killed by federal agents. They disperse, and that's the end of that actual gunfight. There's two stories about how this went down. The Weavers say that they are hunting. It's Randy Weaver, Samuel Weaver, and a friend, Kenneth Harris, and the family dog, Yellow Lab, if I remember correctly. When the dog alerts them to someone in the woods, the Weavers say, we didn't know who it was. They shot the dog, and we shot back in self-defense. The federal agents say the dog alerted the Weaver group, and so they said, hey, identified themselves. Federal agents don't shoot. At some point, the dog gets shot, and then, the agents say they identify themselves, but then they're ambushed, and so then they start shooting, and this is how Samuel dies. So that's the two versions of that initial gun battle. They disperse. The federal agents leave and go back to the main road and start calling for help and other agencies. The Weaver family, they get back to the house. Vicki Weaver, mom, says, no, we are getting our son and we're bringing him home. We're not leaving him there. So they go retrieve his body and bring him back, and then they hunker down.
Wow.
One other fact that was found, Samuel was shot in the back. So that's, more to the story there, right? And then now this is the beginning of an 11-day standoff. When backup arrives, it consisted of U.S. Marshals, but also the FBI hostage rescue team and FBI snipers. And this group used specified rules of engagement, which allowed them to shoot any armed adult male exiting the cabin. So all they had to do was exit the cabin with
holding a gun,
and
they think they have a gun,
right? Or think they have a gun, and they're authorized to shoot.
Wow!
Within the first 2 days, Vicki Weaver is shot in the doorway and killed while she's holding her 10-month-old baby. Unarmed woman, not an armed male. So that she was the first one to be shot.
Did they say that they thought that the baby was a gun?
Yeah, they were all under heightened emotions, and they're really far away. And so apparently she looks like a man with a gun when she's a woman with a 10-month-old baby.
Oh my God. Was the baby okay?
Yes, baby's okay.
But still, that's terrifying. That's horrible.
Yes. Can you imagine?
No matter what.
In the doorway. And then her children are inside. So she's holding one baby while she's shot and killed, and the other two are watching.
Oh God. Those poor kids.
Yep. And then, of course, her husband, but I feel a little less bad for him. Then Kevin Harris is shot and critically wounded. I'm not sure where in his body he was shot, but he's critically wounded and needs assistance. But we're still in the first couple of days of an 11-day standoff.
Wow.
Randy Weaver is also shot and wounded, and he was unarmed when they shot through a window and hit him. And then 8 more days pass after those shootings, and before Bo Gritz, who is a civilian negotiator, is able to bring the standoff to an end. He convinces Randy Weaver that his friend Kevin needs medical attention, and so does he. And that's how he convinces him to leave the cabin and come down the hill. So Weaver surrendered with his 3 daughters on August 22nd, 1992. And that's where he's apprehended and the girls are taken into custody with DCF or Family Services. So, of course, there is a trial for Randy Weaver and Kevin Harris. The government contended that Randy Weaver was a dangerous fugitive and that the event would have been avoided if he had appeared in court and not barricaded himself behind an arsenal with his family.
So the whole reason, their reasoning behind this siege was he failed to appear in court for the sawed-off shotgun charges?
Correct. That's what starts this off. And again, they weren't planning on apprehending him that day when they get discovered on his property by his dog. So they were fully unprepared for what was about to happen, and it didn't go down as planned.
Okay.
But yes, this is why they were on his property, was for this charge. And really it was to get, more information what was happening up there with the Aryan Nation and other folks with anti-government principles and an arsenal.
Sure. Okay. So it was a information gathering mission that went
wrong.
awry.
Yep. Oof. They got discovered. Oh, so the government contended if you hadn't done any of this, then we wouldn't have been here. And if you just come to court, we wouldn't have been here. But Randy Weaver contends that the government had botched an entire process and killed his wife and son. The marshal was killed in self-defense, according to Weaver. And Harris contended that he was innocently there as a family friend and fired in self-defense when he was fired upon. Kevin Harris is eventually acquitted of all charges. And Randy Weaver is acquitted of all charges except for the original failure to appear in court.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. So he had to pay $10,000 for not appearing in court and served an 18-month prison sentence. But he was acquitted for all charges from the Ruby Ridge incident. There was no more federal agents killed during the siege or anything. So once that original gunfight was over, there was no more deaths from the agents. In 1995, the Weaver family was actually awarded a $3.1 million settlement in a civil suit for the deaths of Samuel and Vicki Weaver. $1 million went to each daughter, and $100,000 went to Randy Weaver. 5 years later, Kevin Harris was awarded $380,000, and the remaining Weaver family returned to Iowa, where the daughters live today. So they all returned to where they came from in Iowa.
Oh, wow.
Randy Weaver passed away in 2002 at 74 years old. I'm not sure what his cause of death was, but the rest of the daughters all are still surviving and living in that area. Sarah, the oldest one, she does interviews and things to this day talking about the incident. She has talked about how she felt like she had a really good childhood. Mm-hmm. She thought it was a really great way to grow up, loved her family. Her brother was her best friend.
Do you know if the Weaver girls, did they as adults become part of the same sort of white separatist sort of community?
Not that I found.
Okay.
The oldest one is the only one that seems to publicly speak, so not much on the other two. But she didn't seem like she was still with that belief system at all. And Randy Weaver eventually, as he goes on, he drops the whole religious side of that. That was really Vicky's piece, but he was still anti-government, neo-Nazi. In the aftermath, the government agencies faced investigations, oversight committee hearings, and overhauls of how they conduct business. They reviewed the initial coercion of Randy Weaver, convincing him a government official or agent, convincing him to sell a sawed-off shotgun, which he had no intention of doing prior to that. And also how they went about apprehending him, and the surveillance process, all of it has been overhauled. You can see on YouTube, they have all the C-SPAN video from that time and the oversight committees where everybody's testifying, and you can hear just the craziness of the government overreach. Like they simply almost had no rules about how they would go about getting their information, their intel, and what they would do to get to the end result of eliminating these militias. And in the end, the Department of Justice concluded that the killing of Vicki Weaver violated the department's deadly force policy and contravened, not sure what that means, the Constitution. So they found, their deadly force was excessive.
Yeah.
Obviously, even the rule they had was too excessive, because shooting an armed man that exits the cabin resulted in shooting a woman holding a baby.
Right.
Now, why she would go to that doorway with a baby on her hip, I don't know. Knowing that they're,
that they're watching.
Snipers everywhere. Randy Weaver actually goes with the civilian negotiator to other negotiation processes to help them out when they have another militia member that they're trying to coerce to come out. Yeah.
Interesting.
It's not been successful, but
No.
he does come and is an expert. And this also is not a welcome help to marshals, FBI. They do not see Randy Weaver at any point to be an asset. There continues to be difficulty finding the line between free speech and expression, the freedom to live how you want, while also preventing this freedom from becoming a threat to the government or the people around.
Mm-hmm.
Idaho specifically struggles as it continues to be a home for extremism and militia groups. Idaho has repealed their anti-militia law in 2023. It was initially in place in 1927. They've removed this, making it more difficult to sue these militia groups and therefore giving them more power and longevity and eventually the ability to become well-prepared arsenals and fighters against the United States government or local governments.
Great. That's what we all need.
Yes, right. They're empowered and emboldened, and we can't do anything about it until it gets to that point. The law wasn't really enforced anyway. It appears that it has given people the idea that if you are anti-government paramilitary militia, you are now welcome in Idaho since they repealed that act. It's gives the appearance that we're here for you.
What's the Idaho tagline about potatoes?
Famous potatoes.
Famous potatoes and militias.
And militias. That's right. Yeah, they should add
they
that.
just add that and a little and militias with sparkles.
I think I like that. We're gonna do that.
Well, in pink glitter, the word should be
pink glitter militia.
That's the militia we'll start. The pink glitter militia.
There we go. I have a couple granddaughters who are in. They'll be leaders. Currently, Idaho is dealing with a similar situation. Amon Bundy, who is now a federal fugitive and hiding from apprehension.
No relation to Ted, right?
No,
Okay.
not Ted
All
Bundy. But he is related to Clive Bundy, who is his father. And they have so his family has a history of anti-government activities going back to 2014 when Clive Bundy had a standoff in Nevada. He was allowing his cattle to graze on government land, and the government was charging him grazing fees, and he thought that was unfair and refused to pay.
Of course.
And eventually there was a court case, which he refused to appear for. There's a theme.
Yeah.
And so there was a standoff. I'm not sure. I didn't dive too hard down that rabbit hole, but he did go to court, and then he was acquitted of all charges.
Okay.
So, but I left that one alone because I had enough to do on this one.
Yeah.
But now Amon Bundy he's now in Idaho, not Nevada, and he has created the far-right group People's Rights Network. And he's even run for governor in Idaho as a Republican and then an independent, but he lost. He has had conflicts in Idaho with the LDS Mormons. He has anyone who's an immigrant or the entire immigration process. He takes issue with BLM, Black Lives Matter movement. And of course, he had a terrible time with COVID-19 and the mitigation efforts.
I can imagine. Yeah.
He was in constant battle with all mitigation efforts, refusing to wear masks, holding protests.
God, he was that asshole in a restaurant.
Yes, absolutely. Made scenes everywhere, made everybody's life so uncomfortable because, oh my God, a mask. That was his right to not wear one, and everyone else's right to not be infected.
Went out the window. Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
You're infringing on my rights.
Yes. So, and he takes this fight to St. Luke's Hospital, but not for COVID-19. He is protesting what he states is a medical kidnapping of an infant. Medical kidnapping. This is a new term to me that I discovered during COVID-19 while we cared for these patients in our hospital, and the extremists who suddenly thought we were causing this or had ulterior motives or making a ton of money off, which I'm here to say that did not happen.
No.
Hospitals went broke.
Yep.
Went broke taking care of these patients. So I'm not sure where that came in. But anyway, he was part of that conspiracy group that thought hospitals were kidnapping people and doing things against their will, to include this infant who was brought in by a grandmother and was showing signs of neglect or severe malnutrition. This poor baby had the distended tummy, the sunken eyes, blah, blah, blah. And the state takes custody of this child. And Amon Bundy determines this is a moment of medical kidnapping and there needs to be a protest and action taken by the People's Rights Network. They show up on scene at the hospital, which, by the way, the child's no longer there. They've been taken off to I believe, another hospital to care for. I think this baby went to a children's hospital.
So shows up to the wrong hospital.
Correct.
Like an idiot.
They end up taking down the computer system at this hospital, which, for those that don't know, computer systems are how we care for patients. Unfortunately, it's a very, very key component. It's our safety guardrails.
Sure.
Even to say give medication to a patient. The way I know how to do that is I go into the computer, look up that patient. I scan that patient's ID to make sure it's the correct patient.
Sure.
I've confirmed that ID band is the correct patient with the patient, right? So all these safety measures are in place. And then as I do that, I can go into an area of the chart to find out what medications they're getting, what's due, and what they're allergic to. And even then, if I mess it up, when I bring the medication into the room to give it, I scan it and it then tells me I have an error if there is one, wrong time, wrong medication, maybe they're allergic to it, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
All of those safety measures are now gone. And that's just one component of the care we provide that's dependent on the computer. Yes, there is backup processes, downtime processes, but really what never gets replaced in the downtime process is all the safety measures that are in place that a computer offers. So, and then also the time that it takes to now go find the information we need to care for people. So it's a really, really, really big deal. It's not an inconvenience.
This could kill people.
It absolutely has killed people. And a whole nother incident at Vanderbilt in Tennessee where a nurse is actually charged with murder and was found guilty for a medication error. And part of that medication error was that the computer system was down. And she overrode the system and took out the wrong medication. It's a long story. But
oh my gosh,
this is how we get here. That's what happens when you have computer downtime, or can happen. And so he really put, and his group really put, many people at risk. But they also, during their protests and information that they put out to the public and their group of believers and conspiracy theorists really defamed the hospital.
Sure. And then people aren't going to go seek care.
Right. And this is a small community, so you don't have 3 hospitals to choose from.
Right.
You know, so you now have to go farther.
Or you just don't go at all.
And you don't go at all.
And so people aren't getting the medical care they need. And that's the big thing about the medical,
mistrust.
Yeah. And the medical disinformation out there when somebody on TikTok or whatever is telling you that you don't need to get treatment for your cancer. Instead, you can go and get psychic surgery or take essential oils.
Well, there's crystals.
Oh, there's crystals. Oh, there's also, if cancer can't survive in a alkaline environment, so you need to make sure that you eat foods that promote alkalinity in your body, and you need to buy this $500 water filter that makes your water alkaline, and then you can cure all cancers, according to some people.
Can I just say something about alkalinity?
Yes.
Your body maintains a certain pH balance no matter what you do it, if your body's functioning correctly. Sure. We do that through breathing and we do it through our kidneys. So as you're taking your alkaline water, your body is now varying your breathing and your kidney function to counteract that. So this is just silliness. It's silliness.
You can't biohack everything.
No, it's silliness to me. And then from day one, I was like, what? As soon as I drink that water, my body's going to do something.
Yes.
It's not going to change me to alkaline.
No, I mean, you want clean drinking water that's free of heavy metals and contaminants and poop. But other than
your pH balance is maintained in various ways. So
yeah.
You're just making your body work harder to
exactly
make the right pH.
Jeez, your poor body. So this guy, this
So
guy
anyway,
is doing a lot of harm.
So the St. Luke's Hospital eventually sues him for defamation. They win and are awarded $26 million. But Amon Bundy has determined he ain't doing that.
Of course, he's not going to pay that.
He's not paying it. I don't even know if he can. That seems like a large amount. And not only is he not paying it, he's not appearing in court. And now he's hiding. So essentially, we're doing Randy Weaver all over again.
Yeah.
So they're on the search for him. I don't think they even know where to find him, unlike Randy Weaver, but the process is underway to have him apprehended. So there's a potential situation like Ruby Ridge if they're not careful.
Yeah,
So,
if he's out there prepping and just getting angrier and more justified in his thinking.
Absolutely.
And
every day where he's not apprehended is a day he's fortifying his arsenal.
Exactly. And
his
fortifying
defense.
his beliefs.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe bringing people on board with this. And it can cost more lives, needless lives, like poor Vicky Weaver and their son.
Absolutely.
There's always collateral damage in these things, and people don't think about that.
So Idaho continues to have a problem with their militia, with Amon Bundy. They've repealed their anti-militia law. And if you have any doubt that Idaho allows paramilitary militias to exist unfettered, you can visit northidahomilitia.com. It's an open website. All the information you need for joining, starting, or fortifying your own militia. You can join one there. You can join training events. They have a schedule. They haven't updated their schedule since 2023. But there's night shoots and other hiking and other trainings that they do.
Fun.
They do their military trainings. I believe it said Saturday and Monday, if I remember correctly.
Do they have a pancake breakfast once a month?
I bet they do.
Question: does their website look like it's a leftover from the 1990s?
It's a little bit better than that.
Is it? Okay. I was kind of expecting to go on and be a black background.
No.
With green text.
Nope.
Like lime green text.
And multiple links to various pages.
Okay.
It's really a great link in there.
It's not full of broken links.
Nope. Their links are all they're all active, but some of them are not. So like I said, the schedule for 20 is the only training schedule I have is 2023. They haven't updated with 2024. There is one of their links is the threat level, which was set in 2021 to yellow. And the threats included COVID-19, but also immigration things. And it's high, pretty, it wasn't red level, but it's moderate levels, yellow. Yeah, that wasn't updated, but other things appear to be updated. In fact, you can get all your militia gear there.
Oh, a one-stop
They have a shop. Yep.
Well, that's
right down to a trailer, and they are earning money for their trailer on this website.
Sure.
So if you have any doubt that Idaho's okay with this, just visit that website.
Let's show up with our pink glitter militia.
Yes. Oh, glitter, pink glitter eyeshadow.
Pink glitter trailer.
Oh, yes.
Pink glitter on our guns.
Oh, your little trailer's getting a paint job.
I know. Pink glitter stripes. Silver glitter with pink glitter stripes. And we just show up like fantastic and fabulous.
Yes.
With a fabulous gun.
Oh, my God. Yes. A nice hot pink gun.
Hot pink gun. What should they make? Hot pink guns.
Yes. But I want an assault rifle, though. I mean,
if
I have a militia, I need an assault rifle.
Hot pink, though.
Shoots glitter. You're assaulted with glitter.
Oh my God. We plant glitter bombs.
Yes.
Yes. We do it. We're the glitter terrorists.
Oh God.
We send them just, instead of envelopes full of anthrax, it's envelopes full of glitter.
Okay, but we have to carry little white Pomeranians with us.
Yes. Oh my God. And pink glitter Uggs.
Yes. I'm going full gray hair too. I'm going to stop dyeing my hair.
Yes. I was just thinking though, because I don't own anything pink except for exercise clothes. My wardrobe is black, gray, olive green, and the occasional burgundy. But I'm like, my wardrobe is actually set up to work pretty well with the militia. Because I've already got the camo. I've got gray camo pants. I've got lots of green, lots of gray. Yeah.
I should have been suspecting you this whole time, actually.
I'm secretly a white supremacist. I don't know if you knew this. God, I could cut that.
Yeah, you should probably cut that. And actually, it is 100% not true.
No, it is not. I love how I looked at you just straight in the eye, deadpan.
I know. She actually said that. Like, I was like, wait, she's being serious right now?
No, I just really am. I'm an undercover agent infiltrating so that I can throw glitter all over them. So that way you will know the white supremacists by the glitter in their hair.
That's right.
I don't know where we're going with this. We should probably quit while we're ahead. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening to this. My nonsense, her great story. And please help us out by telling a friend or a family member about the podcast. Like, literally send them the link. You can even send them to our website, rainydayrabbitholes.com, where you can find links to listen on multiple platforms, plus our social media, our little blog posts about the episodes, sometimes our resources, because I'm really slow at getting them on there. We have them in a spreadsheet, I promise.
Reach out for sources.
Yeah, if you need to see a source, I'm really bad at putting my sources on the spreadsheet, though, I will admit. So I'm trying to get better. And yeah, we will see you next time. Also, we will be doing a Patreon soon. So
stay tuned.
Stay tuned for that. Yes, we're going to have some fun stuff for the Patreon. And until next time,
see you down the rabbit hole.